2018 and 19, may I have a proposal from the floor? Ms. Naomi Wong, second, and Ms. Irene will propose to speak for the motion. Wave, second, wave. Any general comment? If not, motion put to vote. Any abstain against? If not, chairperson assumes that motion passed unanimously. So, Naomi, please invite our candidate to get out of the room. According to your surnames alphabetical order, Angie will go first. Okay, so please get yourself ready as well to give our warmest support and welcome to the candidate later on when they come in and do their speech. And please do stand up and clap as loud as possible. Kathy is demonstrating. Huh? Yeah, let's stand up. Okay, so now we welcome Ms. Naomi Wong. Are you ready? Okay, so now we welcome our first candidate for local committee president for session 2018 and 19, Ms. Angie Fong!
Yeah, we're late. We're 1 hour late. Yeah, and I'm gonna make it fast. So, do you know what you're doing here actually? Your VP asked you to come. You need to come because you need to come. Do you know what you're doing in AIESEC? I think some of your answers may be yes, but some of you maybe no. Maybe you feel frustrated, feeling disappointed. You see the people in a recruitment talk very presentable, full of leadership, but when you come into AIESEC, you cannot get the same experience. Maybe you're disappointed. Maybe you can see someone getting what they want, getting what you are seeing before you enter AIESEC, and you cannot get it. Maybe. But I'm sure of one thing, that you don't want this to happen again. And that's what in my mind too. So I made up my decision, I applied for LCP, and I made up my plan, and I'm standing here right now, talking to all of you. And this is the thing that I want to do for session 18-19. I want to make it relevant to City University of Hong Kong, and also to make this entity's future great, not just only good, but great, ambitiously, through striving for excellence. And the first thing I want to do is to gather the catalyst, which is you guys, and then the one who are going to sit in this room next year. So it's about shaping a healthy membership. Yeah. And first thing is about IXP. Anyone of you know what is IXP? Yeah. So IXP is actually someone who went to exchange and then come back to be a member. It's called Integrated Exchange Participants. And it's like a complete experience of AIESEC. And with this experience, I believe they will have more understanding on what AIESEC is really doing. And when you get to see the big picture, what AIESEC is really doing, then you will definitely know what you're doing here, and you'll feel motivated to work every day, and not just to do it because someone told you to do. And second one is diffusion of TM into the whole entity. So TM is actually a department that is gatekeeping all of your experience here. And it's very important that not just TM is doing it, but also the managers, the VPs, all the leadership team is doing it. The third thing I want to do for this part is to enlarge the membership size. Sometimes maybe we don't have enough HR to do things, and maybe you feel very limited, very capacity-wise lacking. And if we have more membership, and imagine if you're in booth, you may not need to come for 8 hours. Maybe you just need to come for 2 hours. And then you can spend the rest 6 hours to do your own stuff, to learn things out of AIESEC, and to bring it back to AIESEC. And the last point is to reinforce the positive competition. If you don't know how the one sitting beside you is performing, you may not know up to which standard you need to perform. And that's a way to let you know how you're gonna improve and how you're actually performing in the entity. And the second thing I want to do is actually give all of you a purpose to burn for. If you are ready to be burned, but you don't have a purpose or a direction to burn for, it's useless. So, the purpose or the direction that we are going to burn for is actually exchange. We need to do excellent exchange. It's not just the 16 standards given by AI. We're doing far better than that. We can do far better than that. And also, we need to enhance the relevance of our project. Sometimes, if you're not giving some relevant projects, then maybe their experience in the exchange won't be maximized, and it's not going to be an excellent exchange experience. But all of these are not just OGX's job. It's not just exchange office job. It's actually related to all departments. It's a direction that the entity can move forward to. Imagine if we don't have BM doing the promotion for OGX. We cannot even get customers. Imagine if there's no finance. No one is gatekeeping the budget, gatekeeping the revenue, gatekeeping the expenses. Then the entity won't even last. Then how can we do exchanges? It's actually relevant to all departments. And lastly, we need a way to keep burning. It's not enough if we only start the fire. So it's about sustainability and legacy. Sometimes, if we only have BM, which all of you are actually experiencing, we only have BM, it's actually quite blurred on the division of work in market penetration. And sometimes you're so limited that you cannot really explore the possibilities in this campus. Maybe you don't have enough capacity to explore the possibilities. You don't have enough capacity to talk to the school, talk to the campus, and see what you can do more for AIESEC. But if we have ER, we can have a clear division, and then we can work in two directions. The first one is ER can actually work for the non-acquired part. For example, they can do partnership with the campus. They can go and talk to the school and see what we can get more from what we are already getting. And for BM, we can always stay on the acquired side, like the channels that we already having. For example, Facebook, for example, Booth, and the CAP email, and department email. And more importantly, we need to have a plan to roll. In which year, how many partnership, or how many market penetration rate are we getting? And how efficient the channel should be. And that's the thing we need to set a goal for, and then to go with it. Because market penetration cannot be done in 1 year. Yeah. And the second one is about the tracking system. There's a lot of data in AIESEC. For example, you have 2 leads doing CC, you have 4 leads doing application, maybe, or you just have 3 coming to the reintegration. And it's all about data, and it's all about tracking. But sometimes it might be unclear if everyone is tracking it, and no one knows what to track. So it's very important to have one centralized department to track all the data. And it can be done in FLA. They give you the resources and they tell you what I need to do, like a boss, but like a nice one. Yeah. And it's more like a result-oriented way. But for TM, what TM can do in this part is actually very important. It's not just about the start and the result, it's also about the process. If TM spot some problem or bottlenecks of that department in doing that stuff, they can actually give more advice and to let that department perform according to the goals set by FLA. And yeah. The last thing is actually about knowledge management. Imagine you have built all the things in this session, but no one from the next session knows about it. It's far more disappointing than what you cannot achieve. Because they are just gonna waste some more time to do what you have done. So it's the importance of knowledge management. You need to let the next session know what we're doing and to equip with the required abilities and knowledge to perform. And what I want to do for this is actually to do shadowing between sessions. It may not be enough for the successors to only do transition with the predecessors. You also need to work with the predecessors to know what is it actually like. Yeah. And also there should be local supporting team. What it means is that I'm proposing two types of LST. First type is that they are gonna give some more strategic comments on what the EVs have done, maybe quarterly, maybe monthly. And the second one is they can actually do coaching. Sometimes if you are leading someone, you face some situation, you may be lost. And it's good to have someone who is experienced to tell you what you can do, or to actually help you think. And this is all my plan. This is all what I want to do for this session. It's not just about AIESEC, it's about all of you too. Imagine if you have these things here, like in this session, maybe you feel better now, or even better. So, if you have any questions regarding my plan, please ask me. And I really want to let you know more about what I'm having in my brain.
Okay, after Angie is the second candidate. So can we all please stand up again and show our greatest, warmest support to the second candidate for local committee president for session 2018 and 19, Miss Irene! First of all, thank you so much for being here this morning. And okay, so in this opening speech, besides going around about what I wish to do for next session, I would like to give you guys more idea as to who I actually am and what's the story behind my life that leads me to be here today, standing in front of you guys. So I was born in Singapore on the year 1997. But I grew up in Indonesia for 18 years before moving here to Hong Kong in 2015. So I actually came from an island. Okay, I'm not coming from those really big Indonesian cities like most of our Indonesian fellows here. I came from just a humble place at the border of the country. It's near Singapore and Malaysia. So I grew up in a community where it's normal for Chinese Indonesians to speak Putonghua. It's normal for us to speak Hokkien, stuff like that. But for me, that's normal. But it's only when I come to Hong Kong that I realize how different I am from my very own people. So I came here alone because I have no friends, no family in Hong Kong. But worst of all is I came from a place where nobody will come to Hong Kong to study. So I came here with my family, my parents and my brother. And I still remember that day when my parents had to leave me in Hong Kong for the first time. So it was at the hall, and we just finished packing, and my parents had to leave to the airport. And all of a sudden, my mom just started crying and giving me a hug. And worst of all is, my father cried as well. And that was the first time I saw him cry in my entire life. And it was that moment that I realized I have put myself in a situation where I will be completely alone in a foreign place with no one to rely on. So the only person I can rely on is myself. But here, I met fellow Indonesians, and some of them are in this room right now. But one thing that is really amazing is I grew to like my country more after leaving it. So I'm miles and miles away from my home country, but I grew to love it. Not because I realized how wonderful our food is and stuff like that, but I realized just how much sense of belonging people have towards their own culture. So before going into university, I did MUN. Not how many of you knows what MUN is? Yay, okay, so I did MUN before entering university, and for most of my year one, that's what I did. So it's normal for me to be along with people who talk about, how do we solve gun violence? How do we actually give vaccination available to all African countries? That's stuff we talk about. We talk about saving the world. But one thing is, nobody actually saved the world, and nobody actually cared enough. Because for someone who's in MUN, if you have ever been there, it's about how you portray yourself to be a better speaker than others. It's about how knowledgeable you are about the policies of the world. But nobody's doing anything. And it was when I come to Hong Kong that I realized that the people I was with actually are not very aware of what's happening in the world. So these are some of the questions that I'm often asked if I say I'm from Indonesia. The bigger the font, the more often it is asked. Okay, the first question is for me, it's a bit discriminative, but that's the things people ask. So before joining AIESEC, I took part in kind of a volunteering program with a company called Intercultural Education. So what they do is they go to local universities, local schools, to share to local students about different cultures in the world. It was there that I realized just how much people know little about Indonesia. But it also sparked something in me that it's so important for people to know, not because for the sake of I know 100 countries, I'm cool like that. But it's about how you're willing to open up to new things that are different, so you can learn from people who actually has something that you lack. So when it comes back to AIESEC, the words that I have put in the red box, those are stuff that I really can relate to a personal level. For me, when I first joined the recruitment talk, I joined recruitment talk twice. I did apply my first year. So I do not understand why cross-cultural understanding and leadership is related. Because for me, it's two completely separate things back then. But then as I try to immerse myself into more conversation, as I try to get to know more about what's actually going on in this world, I realized that it's not that people who are very culturally aware are good leaders. It's because leaders have to be culturally aware, and there's a difference in that. One good example is the current President of the United States. He is by far right now having the top position in the world, but his policies, the things he said, goes against the basic humanity about living in diversity. And that's how I relate the AIESEC way to our life right now. I think the last time I'm standing in front of you guys like this was in recruitment talk, but may I know who among you guys remembered the stuff I said back then? And yes, some of you guys are on that picture. But how many of you actually remembered what are the things that triggered you to apply? This is the last recruitment talk, by the way. Okay, maybe, to be honest, for me, I didn't remember what was talked about in my recruitment talk that very well. So I'm not surprised if you don't remember. But I remember what I said. I remember in the recruitment talk, I came on talking that, you learn so much in AIESEC, we have so much opportunities, we have international conferences, we have all those opportunities that can make you into a leader. But to be honest,
as I think back to the recruitment talk, I'm pretty ashamed, not because I think I did bad in recruitment talk, but because I think I have delivered promises I failed to keep. I don't think I have yet to provide a leadership platform for most of you guys, whether for my managers, or for my members, or for other members for other departments. So, for me, right, one thing that's important is not recruiting the best people. Because either in CityU, once upon a time, we only recruited the most elite people to be part of AIESEC. But that did not work out. Because the best people doesn't mean that this place belongs to them. And capability alone does not make you the best people for this place. So for me, it's important that we have a very comprehensive job description for our members for next year, so that we are able to recruit people based on what we need. Because it's a waste of their time if we recruit them and do not maximize their potential. Furthermore, it's also important that we make sure our leaders are actually capable enough to lead the new members. And that is why the recruitment of local support team is to ensure that the leaders that is going to lead the new members are able to fulfill the promises that they promised. And why is it that I emphasize on the branding so much? I know that I've talked to some of you before actually coming here to the EGM, and one thing that people always mention is, people don't know about AIESEC. But if you go around the campus, if you go around the billboards, there's a lot of opportunities from the school, whether it's volunteering, internship, it's like a lot out there. It's no longer just AIESEC in CityU providing overseas exchanges anymore. So what exactly that we have that the school don't have? And that's you guys. That's the people of this year and next year and then further on in next sessions. So it's important that we actually shape a learning culture so that people can actually know what they lack, so that they can actually develop into better people. But more than that, instead of focusing on what people think of us outside of AIESEC, it's important that people inside admit that they do or are proud of being an AIESECer, and that's why it's important that internally we have a better branding. Whether it's to make a more reliable platform for you to do operations, and also to boost EP to IXP conversion, with the goal that we can create a community of people that believes the impact of exchange. Last but not least, like I said, the campus is full of opportunities, and it's no longer just us talking about internationalism. Like CityU, if you read their roadmap, their newest roadmap, they emphasize a lot of globalization, they emphasize a lot about integrating locals and non-locals. And for me, it's important that we don't go head to head to them, raise a competition, like who is the better exchange provider, who's the better leadership development platform provider. It's about how we can show our support to the school, because we need to tell them or prove to them that we can add value to the school. Or else, it's gonna take us just a few more years before the school will be like, we don't need AIESEC in this space, in this university. And that's when everything will collapse. So it's also important that we can influence or advocate the impact of AIESEC in the school, whether to the students or the staff or the professors. So we need to have more influential advocates. By influential, it means people whose words make a difference. Whether it's influential professors, influential students, or people whose words will be heard by the student body. So I'll end this opening speech by just this statement. So what I want to see next year and the years after that is to make AIESEC and CityU into a platform where everyone has a leadership story to tell. Whether you're going to stay here for only 1 year, or if you're going to stay here for more than 1 year, whatever duration it is, it's my sincere vision or hope to see that everyone has something to tell after they leave AIESEC. Thank you.
Okay, can they please return to your seat on the stage? And at time 11:22, Chairperson receives procedural general motion number 1, which reads that the warmest welcome to be given to Mr. Justin Tang, MCVP Finance and Digital Intelligence of AIESEC in Hong Kong of Session 1718, and Mr. Thomas Lam, the Local Committee Vice President of Outgoing Global Talent and Finance and Legal Affairs and Information Management of AIESEC and CUHK. May I have the proposer from the floor? Ms. Naomi Wong, seconder. Mr. Gary Christopher, who proposes to speak for the motion proposer.
Thank you, Chairperson. So, hello Justin, hello Thomas. Thank you for coming to Irene and Angie's EGM. And also hope that please raise questions for them to facilitate their growth throughout their election journey. Thank you.
Seconder, Mr. Gary Christopher.
So, thank you, Justin and Thomas, for coming today to CityU to visit us and then observe our election journal meeting. So please feel free to ask questions to see whether they are actually capable and passionate enough to become the highest leader on the entity. Thank you.
Okay, any general comment? If no, Chairperson assumes that motion passed with acclamation. Okay, at time 11:23, Chairperson receives procedural motion number 7, which reads that the first round of question and answer session for Local Committee President candidate for session 2018 and 19 to be commenced. May I have the proposal from the floor? Mr. Gary Christopher, seconder. Ms. Naomi Wong will propose to speak for the motion. Waive, seconder, waive. Any general comment? Motion put to vote. Any abstain against? If not, Chairperson assumes that motion passed unanimously. So for this round, the floor can ask about questions regarding the personality, leadership style, or motivation, any kind of questions that are related to themselves more. And the question raising time will be maximum 30 seconds, with thinking time 15 seconds per question or per follow-up question. And the answering time allowed per candidate per question is 60 seconds maximum. So if you don't have any question, can I have the first question holder? Ms. Kathy Kwan.
Thank you, Chairperson. Please tell us the deepest reason why you applied.
Ms. Angie Fong.
Thank you, Chairperson. So actually, I went to Vietnam conference in January, and there's one session that really sparks me a lot, and it's a session that you guys have gone through in the mass meeting. It's called Bafa Bafa. And in that session, I actually see what AIESEC can really do. AIESEC can really make someone change. AIESEC can really make someone understand what they don't understand. And that's the way we want to achieve peace. That's the thing I see AIESEC can do, and the thing that I want to do with AIESEC. And also, this is the first thing that is making me proud of myself. I'm finally doing something not just about myself, but also something beyond myself. And that makes me so proud that I really want to keep staying in this entity. But more than that, is that I really see how AIESEC can do.
Time's up. Ms. Irene.
Thank you, Chairperson. So actually the deepest reason was mentioned in the opening speech is because I always tell people that this place is where you can learn. But then to be honest, it's when I see myself and when I see the people I'm meeting, I feel like I have failed them because I have yet to give them the best platform for them to actually realize their own potential. And more than that, it's not just because the feel of guilt and shame, but it's also that I'm not ready to leave this place because I have faith that this place can grow people, like how it has grown me. Because throughout this election, instead of reassuring myself that I can be a good person, I realized some of the deepest weaknesses or vulnerability inside me, and I believe that it's important that people actually go through that so they can realize their full potential.
Any follow-up question? Ms. Kathy Kwan.
Thank you, Chairperson. What are the things you would like to uphold in the LC if you became the LCP? Thank you.
Ms. Angie Fong.
Thank you, Chairperson. So, the one thing I want to uphold is actually purpose, which is mentioned in my opening speech. I want everyone here to have one single purpose. It doesn't mean that you can only serve AIESEC because of that purpose, but I want this purpose to be in everyone. We want to do excellent exchange, that's our purpose. And we will do it because we want to fulfill the potential of humankind and to let them achieve peace. And that's the point I want everyone to have inside them, and that's the thing I want to uphold. Yeah.
Ms. Irene.
Thank you, Chairperson. The first thing I want to uphold is actually the desire to develop identity. Because for what I realize about youth nowadays is people are aware that they need to be better, but not a lot of people are putting effort to be better. So it's important that I uphold a culture where people actually face challenges instead of running away from them. Because I used to be a person that would not face a challenge like face to face, but I would go around the challenge so that I can have an easy way out. But that's something that I want to avoid and I do not want to uphold in this entity. And lastly, it's also back to my opening speech, which is to have a strong cross-cultural understanding culture in the entity. Because it's essential that everyone here understand what exactly is AIESEC trying to do and go back to the big vision while they're doing operation work.
Next question from the floor. Ms. Muskan Gandhi.
Thank you, Chairperson. Which AIESEC value is the most relevant in the world today?
Ms. Angie Fong.
I think striving for excellence is the most relevant to the world today, because if you have something you want to do, you need to do it in the best way you can. And it's a universal rule that everyone should uphold. And that's how we also do things in AIESEC. We are doing it not just to satisfy the basic minimums. We want to do it great because our goal is big. And yeah, that's the value I think is the most related to the work.
Ms. Irene.
Thank you, Chairperson. For me, it's living in diversity. So I would like you guys to just take a few seconds to just look at what's happening in the world right now. Even back in my home country, we have discrimination, we have judgment made to people who's different. And for me, as someone who have felt what it's like to be discriminated, it really sparks that this world really needs us to be aware that our own people are not the best, and that we can learn from each other, and that it's very important to open up our mind to ensure that we are ready to learn from what's bad about ourselves and take away things that people actually have that's better. Thank you.
Any follow-up question? Ms. Muskan Gandhi.
Thank you, Chairperson. How do you demonstrate the value you just mentioned in your
Ms. Irene.
Thank you, Chairperson. So it was again mentioned in my opening speech. So for me, it's more on how I advocate living in diversity. So it's very often for me to go to local schools here with intercultural education. So I go there and then I speak to local students. Some of them are really young, usually it's from Form 1 to 3 or sometimes older students. So what I do is not just telling them about my culture, but it's about asking them what they think about their plans when they grow up. I often ask them which place you want to see, what people you want to meet, because it's oftentimes that they are stuck inside this bubble, which is Hong Kong, and they do not know why they need to step out of it. So it's important that there's people there who tell them there's something out there, and that's what I've been doing.
Next question. Oh, sorry, Miss Angie Fong.
Striving for excellence is something that deep inside me. I'm something near perfectionist. This is like deep inside me. When we're doing the branding event, like the latest example, when we're doing branding event, there's a lot of things that we are doing maybe good in others' eyes, but it's not enough for me, and I keep on evaluate on how we can do it better. And that's the way how I strive for excellence. It's not only in the branding event, but I'm confident to say that I uphold this value throughout the whole AIESEC term I'm having. So if some of you may have worked with me, you really understand it's nothing that I can describe. It's the thing that you can feel when you work with me.
Next question. Mr. Chris Chow.
Thank you, Chairperson. So a lot of us speak like exchange is so good in this and that. And I want to talk about another side. Please comment on one drawback or one potential risk or one negative impact that exchange could bring to society or the world.
Time's up. Miss Angie Fong.
Thank you, Chairperson. So, exchange, there's a lot of good things there, but if you need me to name something that might be a drawback, it's when some people, they don't know enough about themselves and they go on exchange. If they know nothing about the world surrounding them, or maybe the family around him or her, or the society around him or her, and they go on exchange, they're going to be influenced by the external culture, and they maybe lost themselves. And so that it's important for us to let the EPs know who they are, to let them gain self-awareness about not just themselves, but also around the place and environment around them. Maybe CityU, maybe Hong Kong, or maybe Asia. And that's the way we prevent them from suffering the drawbacks of exchanges.
Miss Irene.
Excuse me.
Point of clarification from Mr. Chris Chow.
And my question is to society of the world. Thank you.
Irene can go first, and then Angie can be answer. Okay, thank you, Chairperson. So for me, it's like how exchange can negatively impact the society. It's more on how the person going on exchange view exchange. Because personally, I met several EP who see exchange as a way to escape their home country. And that, for me, is the biggest negativity about exchange. Because there are people who, like for instance, like for myself, I consider myself doing a long-term exchange in Hong Kong. There are many times that you feel that, oh, I'm very comfortable with this place, and I don't want to go back to where I came from. Sometimes it could bring good, but then to be honest, if you think in a way that it brings bad impact to the people back at home. Because leaving a place really, you're not just leaving a country, but you're leaving people behind. And of course, you're leaving behind the development of your own country. Thank you. Miss Angie Fong.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson. So, it's actually people that make up society. Yeah. And if one person failed, and every person failed, it's the society's problem. Imagine if everyone who don't know about something in their country, and then go on exchange, and then come back, and then act the culture of another country, then that place is no longer the place that it's originally is. And it's actually relevant to the society.
Follow-up question. question. Mr. Chris Chow.
So that would be a question on another angle as well. So for reference, a one-way flight without transit to Brazil would generate more than 7 tons of carbon dioxide, which is enough for a car to drive 50,000 kilometers around the world. This is against the vision of AIESEC, which promotes like sustainability and like promoting SDG. Please comment on what AIESEC should do to remedy this problem when exchange would bring a lot of environmental impact to the world.
Ms. Irene.
Thank you, Chairperson. So first, I wouldn't go all scientific and be like, let's hope that there are AIESECers that can actually do something to make sure the carbon dioxide is less in the world, which I do believe there will be AIESECers who will be scientists in the future to do that. But on a more like back to the LC level, it's about how you live sustainably in other ways. Because this world is becoming polluted, and it's not just due to transportation, right? There are many other ways that we contribute to pollution. So as AIESEC, instead of like limiting exchange due to this problem, it's important that we take action, such as like using less plastic or using more public transportation to actually tackle the sustainability problem that we're facing right now.
Ms. Angie Fong.
Thank you, Chairperson. So there are a few points that I want to point out regarding this question. The first thing is the significance of the problem and comparing to the impact that we can create out of exchange. If we can develop someone that can change the world, then I don't really care about the carbon dioxide they emit on the airplane, you know? Because that person can change more than that carbon dioxide emitted on their flight going to the place they are doing exchange. And another thing is, please imagine if there is no change in the world and people only think about themselves.
Please comment on how AIESEC can remedy this situation.
You mean this is part of your question, or you're raising your? Okay. Ms. Angie Fong.
Thank you, Chairperson. AIESEC is not God. AIESEC cannot do everything. And if you need to solve every single problem, every single tiny problem that exchange is going to bring, then it's out of AIESEC's scope. But if you want me to name some way of AIESEC that can help this problem, is that when we develop people, maybe they'll gain more awareness on this problem and they can solve it one day. But it's not an immediate solution that we can deal with this problem.
New question from the floor. Mr. Gary Christopher.
Thank you, Chairperson. Define betrayal.
Ms. Irene.
Thank you, Chairperson. For me, betrayal goes to a very personal level, and I can just answer it very simply. It's because you feel betrayed, or someone betray you, when you're given a hope of something really big, and you put trust and all your trust and effort into that single thing, only to be told that that will never happen. And for me, that's the biggest betrayal one person can get.
Ms. Angie Fong.
Thank you, Chairperson. So, if there is betrayal, there must first be trust. And if you trust one person and the person betrays you by ruining your trust, then that's the definition of betrayal to me.
Follow-up question, Mr. Gary Christopher.
Okay, what if I
Stand up.
Sorry, thank you, Chairperson. Let's suppose that both of you like a person A, and then this person said that he really liked you, and then after 1 year, he suddenly said, "Oh, I'm just gonna leave you." But then 1 month later, he said, 1 month later, you bump into them, and then he is with another girl, and you were an LCP back then. How can you respond to the situation?
Is the girl that he's with?
Yes.
Ms. Irene. Thank you, Chairperson. For me, it's easy. If a person is not meant to be with you, doesn't matter if I'm an LCP or not, as a human being, fundamental human being, if something is not meant to be, then it's not meant to be, and all I have to go do is just to move on with my life and focus on being an LCP, which is a bigger responsibility than moping about a guy that doesn't deserve me. Miss Angie Fong.
Thank you, Chairperson. So before all that drama happens, there is one very important question. Do I like the guy or do I care? If I don't care, it won't be a problem. Thank you, Chairperson.
New question from the floor. Mr. Cam Limbu.
Thank you, Chairperson. I've been in AIESEC for less than a year, but I feel like when I did the branding event, that was the first time the whole entity came as one. So I'd like to ask, in your new term, how would you try to bring all departments more closer? Because usually we're in the same entity, but we work towards different goals, and we usually don't work together. So there isn't much time to bond with each other.
Miss Angie Fong.
Thank you, Chairperson. So I think it's actually about the goal and a picture that I want to let everyone see. If every department have the same single goal to go for, which is mentioned in the manifesto, it's not just that they will be more mentally connected, like they know that each other is helping towards the same goal, like doing good exchange. But also, if we are doing it because of the same goal, you can foresee there will be more synergies. There will be more and more synergies, and between departments, like we can do one thing together, and that's the way how people bond with each other. They can work with different people, and to know how this entity is really thinking about the goal and how they really want to achieve the goal.
Miss Irene. Thank you, Chairperson. So for me, it's about building or creating opportunities for people to get together in the first place. Because it's very normal that each department has their own meetings, they have their own sub-teams. And to be honest, one of the main places or platform for them to get together is mass meeting. But then it goes back to how we facilitate a mass meeting. Because I talked to several of you guys, and you think that you want more activities in mass meetings where you can actually interact with people instead of like sitting and listening to people. And one good example is to actually facilitate simulations or games in mass meeting that can actually have that. But more than that, it's on how, as an LCP or as an EB, you can have or advocate why we're doing what we're doing so that everyone is on the same page. And that can be done through various places, whether it's from your manager, VP, or even the LCP. Any follow-up question? Okay, wait. New question from the floor. Ms. Naomi Wong.
Thank you, Chairperson. Please use a metaphor to describe your relationship with your manager this year.
Miss Irene. Thank you, Chairperson. I'm not sure you guys know that egg-looking thing that sways like this, but doesn't fall. Yeah, I don't know what it's called in English, but for me it feels like I'm that thing that keeps on falling sideways, and both my managers are at the side, like just pushing me back up, because I do feel that there are many times, whether it's about operation or non-operational work, that it feels like I'm on the verge of really falling, but then someone is just like pushing me back and get me back on track. So that's how I see it. Miss Angie Fong. Miss Angie Fong.
Okay, so it's actually like this. I don't know how to explain, but it's like a platform, and then like a standing, it's supporting thing, and then there's two balls on the platform. So why I draw this is because I feel like I'm providing a platform for them to go to some direction. Like I tell them direction, I see this broader surface, and sometimes maybe I can move my slope to make them move, but sometimes I can't. Because maybe the density is not right, or I don't know what. It's like physics stuff, but what I want to point out is that I really want to give them direction on how to do and make them really move by themselves, but not like I make them move. And it's very important.
Time's up for a question. Miss Naomi Wong.
Thank you, Chairperson. So, how would you look forward? How would you vision your relationship with your entity next year? Thank you.
Point of clarification from Miss Irene.
Thank you, Chairperson. Entity as in like
AIESEC in CityU.
as a whole, right?
Yes.
Point of clarification from Miss Angie Fong.
How would you envision your relationship with AIESEC in CityU as a whole? People.
Miss Irene.
Thank you, Chairperson. It's going to sound ridiculous, but I feel like it's like a grandmother to grandchildren. Not because of the age. I know I'm going to be final year next year, but it's about, I want to be that person that has a lot of stories to tell, and I want to be that person that has a personality of being a role model for people, and that's how I envision myself with the entity. And more importantly, instead of that, is to be that person that people feel comfortable talking to. Because I'm not sure about most people, but I do have a loving grandmother that I can always talk to, and that's the kind of relationship that I hope to see between myself and the entity, whether it's to members, managers, or VP, like to everyone.
Miss Angie Fong.
Okay, so I envision the relationship of myself with AIESEC and CityU be like, I'm gonna demonstrate what AIESEC has really mean, and I want everyone else to become like an AIESECer at the end of the term.
Okay, new question from the floor. Mr. Marston.
Thank you, Chairperson. What defines a good leader and do you see this leader in yourself?
Miss Irene.
Thank you, Chairperson. So for me, a good leader on a more personal level, a good leader has to have the bravery to take the risk, And for me, one example as to how I portray that is, I'm the type of person that used to be unable to face my own weaknesses. I'm the type that do not want to focus on what I'm bad at because I'm just scared of not feeling good about myself. But then I realized that to be a good leader, it's important to show vulnerability. So that's something that I would like to show in myself and something that I would like to advocate for others to do so as well. But second of all, it's a good leader to an entity. A leader has to have a vision or having a personal connection as to why they want to do what they do and to have a connection to the big picture that this place want to build. And for me, that's something that I can relate to on a personal level.
Miss Angie Fong.
Thank you, Chairperson. So, leadership is actually not that complicated. Leadership starts when you think not only about yourself. It might be about people around you, people you lead, or about people you don't know, people that is in another end of the world. When you can think not only about yourself but beyond yourself, and your decision and the way you do things will be very different. And that's the way how a leader can really empower others and achieve what is good to everyone. And I think that's what a leader means. And I think I'm walking toward that direction. I won't say I'm a perfect leader, but that's the way that I want to go. I want to know more about the world. I want to see, I want to feel, I want to empathy. I want to have more empathy. I want to know, and I want to really do something for those people.
Any follow-up question? Waved. New question. Ms. Muskan Gandhi.
Which part of being the LCP is the least appealing to you?
Miss Irene.
Thank you, Chairperson. This is something that has been bothering me, not when I was applying for LCP, but right now as well. It's to be completely honest and to bring out the critical side of me, because that's something that I've been struggling for a long time. But I know that if I want to be a good leader, it's important to give my honest feedback to people I lead or people that I'm working with, because only then will they understand what I'm trying to achieve. And only then will I build a very transparent communication between myself and my team so that we can actually work together to be better together. So that's one thing that is least appealing for me, not because I don't see it as important, but I know that's something I have been struggling, but I will work on towards that.
Miss Angie Fong.
Thank you, Chairperson. So the least appealing part, I guess, is when there's conflict. When there's conflict between who I want to be and who I am actually am. Like, there are times that you need to be someone you're not to achieve what you want to do. And I guess that's the most painful part that a leader would go through. Because leaders, like just now I mentioned, it's not only about themselves. They need to consider far more than themselves. And if you want to be a good one, it would definitely be a lot of times that you are going through these kind of situations. And I guess that's a big part, and that's also the least appealing part to me. Yeah.
Any follow-up question? Ms. Muskan Gandhi.
Thank you, Chairperson. And now, which is the most appealing part that can actually compensate for the least appealing part?
Miss Irene.
Thank you, Chairperson. For me, I'm willing to be an honest communicator, which is something that I fear of. If by changing myself into a better leader, I can make an impact on others. If the people I lead can actually become better under my leadership, then it's gonna be worth it. And if being an honest leader who can give her most sincere opinion about the work or about the personality of a person, I don't mind being that person or that leader that is talked badly at times behind my back, if at the end of the day, it's going to build a platform or an opportunity for that person to be better. Thank you.
Miss Angie Fong.
So,
Miss Angie Fong.
thank you, Chairperson. And it's actually about what is coming out of your act. Like, even if it's painful, it's not a good thing to deal with when you not need to be not like yourself. But when you see what more you can achieve, how you improve as a leader, or how others improve as your followers, and how everyone else is better off after you do a certain thing, and I guess that's the most appealing part to be a leader.
New question. Mr. Chris Chow.
So is the question very relevant to leadership? And I want this question to be answered by Irene first because you may have limited information. So back in 100 years ago, in Qing Dynasty, there is an event called like 100 Days Reform. And I think that's very relevant to the jobs that you are doing as an LCP. Okay, the background information is the emperor, like they have a group of people who raised more than 50 reform policies, and at the end, after 100 days, the emperor was in a cult, like the mother sent him to a house arrest, so the whole reform is failed. So please compare your role of AIESEC as LCP and this historical event.
Point of clarification from Ms. Irene.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just to have a more fact check. So, the emperor was brought for a house arrest by his own mother?
Yes.
To stop him from reforming
Yes.
law. Okay.
Point of clarification from both candidates. Anyone can go first.
Do I need to answer?
Irene will answer first. Yes.
Thank you, Chairperson. So the question is, how can this relate as the role of an LCP? Yes.
Ms. Irene.
Thank you, Chairperson. How I see the correlation between this historical event and being an LCP is that oftentimes there's a lot of things that an LCP want to do, but there's many factors that's stopping them. For the case of the emperor, the one stopping him is his own mother. But as an LCP, from what I see, what's stopping an LCP from achieving what he or she wants goes back to people again. Whether it's the lack of support from his or her EB, or the lack of direction that an LCP gives. So I can see the correlation in a way that there's always something that will stop the leader from doing something. That's a very normal phenomenon. And whether you're an emperor, president, prime minister, or LCP or an LC, it's oftentimes that you have to face this kind of problems, and it can be like internal problem or external factors.
Follow-up question. Oh, okay. Miss Angie Fong.
Okay, so I guess that's the way it's related. That's the only way that an LCP role is related to this story. So my answer will be the same as Irene. I don't have any more to say about it.
Follow-up question, Mr. Chris Chow.
Okay, so I will raise an actual event that happened in AIESEC. So this inspiration is brought from Gary Wong, like MCP of AIESEC Hong Kong 2005. And at that time, like there is some incident that happening is MCP face a kind of opposition from like most of the LCPs because of some reforms, and they want the MCP to step down, but the MCP thinks that he's right. So when you face this with, like, I use that kind of historical event to compare with this. So if you are the kind of leader like the emperor, like as an MCP who is raising reform, and you think you're right,
Miss Angie Fong.
I think it's all about communication. Not just communication with the people who are opposing against you, but also communication with yourself. You need to really know why you are doing it. Is it because the good of everyone? Is it a fair judgment? You need to talk to yourself first, and then you need to talk to the people who oppose against you. And then you need to know why they are not saying yes to you. And if you think it's really valid, and you really need to reconsider. I mean, yeah.
Miss Irene. Thank you, Chairperson. One thing I've learned is that first, the leader is not always right. But oftentimes when you're a leader, you assume that you should be right. And for me, no matter how confident I am, whether I'm right or wrong, I should stop being stubborn to actually put down that pride and talk to people who's going against me. Because oftentimes, I see that people are unwilling to admit that they're wrong. That's normal human behavior, which is even more common in a leader. So if that were to happen to me, I really need to put down all my ego to tell people that I'm ready to listen, for them to tell me their most honest opinion, so that we can together come up with something that can solve the problem instead of just attacking a single person or a group of people. Next question. Ms. Natalie Chen.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think it's very common for the members thinking that they are very paying attention on their self-awareness, but not considering the whole picture that they can contribute to the entity, not until they want to proceed. So what do you think as a LCP you can empower them to develop this sense? Thank you.
Time's up, candidate.
Ms. Irene. Thank you, Chairperson. So I think first of all, building self-awareness is actually not very easy, and actually, to be honest, it takes time for some people. Like personally, it took me more than 1 year. So from how I can see how we can actually impact people in this sense, as an LCP or as AIESEC in CityU, is to actually have more space for them to think about how they can actually impact. Because one thing is, sometimes you're aware, let's say, that you're not good at being empathetical, or you're not good at being very selfless. But then there are times that you have to think of your good side, and afterwards to actually take action to use what's good about you to do something for others. Because impact is always not just about yourself, but how you use it for other people. And that's, you can do it outside of AIESEC.
Miss Angie Fong.
Thank you, Chairperson. So, I think the first thing is about recognition. You need to recognize how there may be single work, or maybe you just do prospecting. You just write a name on the spreadsheet, and how it's significant to our operation. We need to recognize that. That's the first thing. And another thing is, we need to give some guided questions to let them think in long term. Because when you think in long term, it's impossible for you to find AIESEC's value irrelevant to you. And also we need to give space for them to think. And I think these are the two most important things that we need to do to let the members feel connected to AIESEC.
Follow-up question. Wait, your question. Miss Orenda Lee. Miss Orenda Lee. clarification from Ms. Irene. Thank you, Chairperson. So, what kind of activities, right? Ms. Irene. Thank you, Chairperson. So, I'm not sure. I think not all of you went. So we actually had an LC outing. I think Marston went, Kathy went, right? And I think it's the kind of like meaningful outing that can actually bring the LC together, because during the outing I get to know people outside of my own department, and it's through that kind of outing where you can actually talk about really meaningful stuff, because we went to Dialogue in the Dark, and for all of us who went there, it's like we're just really amazed. Like you can ask, I think Chris went as well, right? So it's the kind of activities that can spark meaningful things inside you, and you can actually communicate or talk about it with people you went. And those people might not be your closest friends, but it's a kind of activity and conversation that can bring you together to talk about really deep stuff. Yeah, and then, so it's very important that we have more of that next year. Ms. Angie Fong.
Thank you, Chairperson. So actually, I don't think it's a problem of a single activity that can tackle. Like, there's nothing such as an activity that can tackle this problem. It needs to be a continuous act of conversations between people. We need to give, and for that, we need to give more space for them to talk to each other. Like, maybe we can have more synergies meetings, maybe we can have more teamwork, maybe we can have more LC events instead of department events. For example, like the branding event, we can invite people from other departments to help, and they get to work together and to know more about each other. And that's a better way to form bonding. But yeah, I think about the activities that TM can do to make the LC's bonding better, it's better to let the LCVP TM to think about it, because if I really want to reinforce this, then they will have no freedom to think there.
Any follow-up question? Ms. Orendelli. Ms. Irene. Thank you, Chairperson. So instead of like talking about the nature of the outing, it's more about how it's going to be planned out. Because to be honest, I know that the outing itself was held pretty late. Like, I think there are times that you have to strike the iron while it's hot. So when people are new to this place, they're more enthusiastic, they're more like willing to engage. So we cannot keep it for too long. We have to like have this kind of activities or this kind of events in the beginning of the LC's members coming in. And more than that is to actually emphasize on the meaning behind the event. So for instance, if it's like volunteering, then we can emphasize on how this event can actually impact others, because at the end of the day, a person will not dedicate their time on something that they do not see a meaning to. Ms. Angie Fong.
Thank you, Chairperson. So I think it's really about the thing that I just mentioned. It's not a one-time thing that you ask people to go. It's after you build the bonding between people, and then you ask people to go for activities to strengthen that bonding. And also, it's about the relevance of that activity to every single member. And you need to really get to know how every member is thinking and what they really like, and then to make an activity that is relevant to the majority, and to make more people attend the activities.
New question from the floor. Ms. Erica Zhou.
Thank you, Chairperson. Actually, this question is asked by Petra Prun. I just received a message. So, which country would you like to visit the most, and why?
Time's up candidate, Miss Irene.
Thank you, Chairperson. So actually the place that I want to go most right now is the United States. And I have a really weird reason for that. Is because my pastime, one of my favorite things to do is to watch American TV talk shows, whether it's James Corden or Stephen Colbert, and I love it, okay? And one thing that I really like is how they always talk about racism, how their leaders are just discriminating and stuff. But I want to see for myself, because I grew up thinking that the States is one of the most developed countries in the world. But how does such a developed country with such a great economy be so lagging behind in terms of this aspect? Because as you know, they have a lot of problems like gun violence that happened not long ago. So I want to see for myself the reality of that place to emphasize or to confirm what I find ridiculous.
Miss Angie Fong.
So the place I want to go right now is North Korea. It's not just because I'm learning Korean, it's because this is the place that I think is the most different from Hong Kong. Like, we always talk about democracy. People are shouting for democracy in Hong Kong. They want to have the power, they want to have the right. But I guess that's not something that is happening in North Korea. And I really want to go there and experience that environment and to really feel how democracy is important and how is it important not only to Hong Kong but to every single person out of Hong Kong.
Follow-up question, Miss Erica Zhou.
Thank you, Chairperson. So can you convince anyone in this quorum to go for GD or GT to the country you just stated?
Miss Irene.
Thank you, Chairperson. So, assuming that there are GV opportunities in the States, one thing I can say to them is that the United States might look like it's a really developed country, but there's still a lot of people inside that is suffering from poverty, is suffering from being at a disadvantage. So, it's important that I persuade people to go on GV to the United States to show children that is living in under the poverty line that the place they're living in, people might keep on telling them that the States is one of the best countries that you can live in, but it's important that you bring the world to them, telling them that there's so much out there, and to encourage them to be a better version of themselves so they can one day go out there with their own ability. In terms of GT is very easy, is because as a country as developed as US, there's actually a lot of things you can learn from their history, from the economy. Yeah.
Your question? Oh, sorry, Miss Angie Fong.
Yeah. So assuming North Korea have GE and GT projects, and I think the first thing I gonna tell the lead is that you're gonna make your CV special. Really, no one will ever get internship in North Korea, and maybe if you are in a job interview, you win the showtime. You can talk about your story in North Korea. And that's the way I'm gonna tell the EP. And also, I'm gonna tell her the reason I wanna go to North Korea. I think it will be relevant and it will be attractive to any Hong Kong local students. Yeah.
Your question from the floor. Miss Vince Wazarayu.
Thank you, Chairperson. Can you tell me two things that impress you the most as an LCBP, one thing with your team and another thing with your EBT?
Miss Angie Fong.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Do I have to sign up?
Yeah.
Okay. Two things that impress you the most as LCBP journey, one thing with your team, another thing with your EBT. Any department team.
Time's up, candidate. Ms. Irene.
Thank you, Chairperson. So maybe some of you know, but my department comprises of like at least 6 nationalities. At first I was like, okay, how difficult could it be? But it really impresses me that people are ready to put down their differences when we are talking about working together. Like they might not notice it, but I do feel that when I see them, there are a lot of times that maybe 2 persons can actually have a potential to clash, but then to make things work, they actually try to put down the differences that they have. And in terms of my EB team, one thing that I've always been impressed of is how they are ready to take up responsibilities, to be honest. Like, I'm not sure if they noticed it, but then most of them are younger than me. And for me, it's not easy to be young and inexperienced and to take up a role as big as part of an EB. So that's something that I still find impressive.
Ms. Angie Fong.
Thank you, Chairperson.
So for my department, BM, it's actually, what impressed me the most is actually how people can change. How people can change from someone who like doesn't really give a to someone who really care and someone who really work with the branding event with you the whole night. And that's the part that impressed me the most. And the second, and about the EB team, it's actually how different people can really work together if they care enough. It's not just about the nationalities that is different in our EB team. We have Indonesians and we have Hong Kongers. And it's also about how different everyone's personality is. I can say my EB team is really diverse, and they have different goals in life, and they have different personalities, and they have different hobbies, and yeah, that's the way.
Okay, any follow-up question? Ms. Mint Wasalai.
Thank you, Chairperson. Since you guys are persuading us to go for VP, can you persuade us to not go for VP? Thank you.
Time's up, candidate. Ms. Irene.
Thank you, Chairperson. So to be part of an EB, it takes a lot of commitment and a lot of sacrifices to be made here and there, whether it's your time with your family or your time with your friends or even your academics. But if you do not think you are ready to make the needed sacrifices, then I will not persuade you to run for LCVP. And furthermore, as an LCVP, it's a lot of personal realization that could lead to actual mental breakdown. So if you are not ready to face the worst side of you, then do not apply for VP.
Ms. Angie Fong.
Okay, so it's actually, thank you, Chairperson. So it's actually very easy to persuade someone not to go for VP. First of all, you definitely get sufficient sleep if you're not having other commitment like AIESEC. That's very important. And another thing is that you get to meet friends out of AIESEC, people who play with you, people who don't talk about AIESEC, people who don't really talk about working stuff, and you can just chill. And it might be the happiest or the most relaxed moment in your life. And you can get it if you're not in AIESEC. But is that really what you want? If it's really what you want, then I won't say more than one word to let you become a VP.
Okay, new question from the floor. Ms. Agnes Lowe.
Thank you, Chairperson. So, and sometimes as a LCP, you have, not just being an LCP, as a leader, you have to adapt to your subordinates or your understand which parts, which is the personality that you are less comfortable to become in order to adapt others.
Time's up, candidate. Ms. Irene.
Thank you, Chairperson. One thing that I do not want to be the most is to be cold. Like, that's the last thing I am. And I know a lot of leaders that will put a very cold self to put themselves in the top hierarchy. But to be honest, that's not who I am. And that's something that I'll be very uncomfortable to be like that. Because I'm the type that want to engage with more people. And putting myself there, it's not just that I will feel really lonely, but it just feels like there's no point because I'll be disengaged with the entire entity. And that's something that I will not do, even though perhaps at some point that could actually bring benefits, such as people getting more willing to do their work or be more afraid of consequences.
Ms. Angie Fong.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think the least comfortable thing that I need to do when I am a leader is that I need to lower my standard. And it's very frustrating for someone who is always doing things because of standards that need to lower their standard. But I think that's a step that I really starting to become a leader. Like, I'm not considering just because of myself, but also because of others. And I'm not comfortable, but I'm happy about that.
Any follow-up question? Ms. Atlas, no.
Thank you, Chairperson. So for Irene, what would you do when you encounter with a member that only follows high authority? And for Angie, what would you do to make sure your members can uphold your standards?
Time's up, candidate. Ms. Irene.
Thank you, Chairperson. First of all, I will be firm with what I want to achieve as his or her leader, because for me, there's other ways to show that you are their leader. Instead of just telling them like, I'm your boss, so do nothing but listen to me. For me, it's very important to do that other ways. Besides being firm with what I wish to do and my plans, it's also important to communicate with them as to how I can guide them and how they can actually work with me towards the same vision. Because one thing that makes a leader good is the ability to guide. So even though I would not put myself as a leader that would want everyone to just listen to me and do nothing, but I want to be that leader that can actually use my personal values and vision and determination to guide them.
Ms. Angie Fong.
I think how I'm gonna do it is by letting them know that there's a possibility that they can achieve my standard. And it's very important that they see hope and they continue to do that. And then if they're lost, I really need to point it out that our goal is there. And before that, I need to get them agree on the standard that is achievable and they really want to work on it with me. And it's also about communication, like how clear the standard is communicated and like what are the expectations between, what kind of help can I offer, what kind of expectation I want them to have. And I think that's a thing that I want to do to let them meet my standard.
Your question. Mr. Justin Tan.
Thank you, Chairperson. So hi, candidates. So what do you think is the strength and the pride of AIESEC and CityU? So some of you may not know. AIESEC and CityU is the youngest LC in Hong Kong, given only have 7 years of history, but they have won 2 consecutive years of Best LC Award. So what do you think is the strength and the pride that you can share with your plenary about AIESEC and CityU?
Ms. Irene. Thank you, Chairperson. I think it goes back to our team stance for the past 2 years, which is no excuse. So we don't want to put the fact that we are the youngest to be an excuse to not be better. And we don't want to use that excuse to stop ourselves from growing further, because indeed we lack alumni, we lack experiences compared to other LCs, but that is not stopping us from becoming better. But instead of talking about being proud that we have won LC awards, is that personally I feel proud that this entity, this LC, actually is very accepting of international students. Because we have always been that LC with the most number of nationalities, with an EB that is not comprised of only locals, and that's the kind of spirit that I want to sustain into further sessions, and that's my personal pride towards this LC, and that's something that I'm truly proud. Ms. Angie Fong.
So I think the thing that I'm proud of AIESEC and CityU is that our leaders are more caring, or say open-minded to some kind of changes, and we are willing to take risk, and we are always thinking of how to do it better. In the previous sessions, they're actually having very high standards, which makes AIESEC and CityU able to grow in such a fast rate. And in a recent sessions, the leaders are kind of more value aligned, and then they really care about if AIESEC can really achieve what AIESEC really wants to do. And I think that's the way that AIESEC and CityU stands in the national plenary.
Any follow-up question? Mr. Justin Tan.
Thank you, Chairperson. So that's it's actually another question. So what do you think is your leadership philosophy?
Time's up, candidate. Ms. Angie Fong.
I think it really goes back to a few questions before this question. I mentioned that I think leadership is something that is not complicated. It's something that is valid as long as you're not considering only about yourself. And it's about when you care about how the people sitting beside you develops, how is the one maybe sitting in another end of the world is living their life. If you care about all these, I think that's a leader. And how it's actually gonna apply to AIESEC and CityU is that when you have really diverse EB team, it's not just that you are going to stand still for your leadership style, but it's like you're gonna see how different everyone is, and you find out a way to find the most suitable leadership style for them, not for yourself. And I think that's
Ms. Irene. Thank you, Chairperson. For me, it's about how to really be courageous enough to face your worst side, to actually admit that there is that side of you that you do not like, and to actually tackle that problem. For me, a leader, my own leadership philosophy it goes to a very personal level, is how a leader should face the challenge to actually be better. And for me, a leader should use their own personal story to inspire others so that people can do the same as them. Thank you. Your question from the floor. Ms. Kathy Kwan.
And thank you, Chairperson. So I have different question for different candidate. So for Angie, please tell us one thing that you realized this term that you wanted to change in your next term. And for Irene, you have mentioned that you regret that you did not fulfill your promise in your GL recruitment talk back then. So what changes you think you will have in yourself that makes that thing happen next year? Because given that you did not make it happen this year. Thank you.
Time's up, candidate. Ms. Angie Fong.
I think the one thing that I want to change for next session is the expectation setting in all levels. Like, it's not just about maybe LCP and LCPPs, it's also about how the members perceive AIESEC. And I think that's really important when it comes to like how we can work together as a team. Because if the expectation is not matching, then there will be a lot of misunderstandings that are avoiding the team from forming and to really perform. So I think that's a fundamental thing that I want to solve for next session.
Ms. Irene. Thank you, Chairperson. So of course I have to be a good role model to achieve what I said in the opening speech, is that I need to be the first one to be daring enough to speak out about what's bad about me and how I would like to change it. But more importantly, how I can bring a direct impact to, let's say, the members or my VP or managers, is that I have to be daring enough to speak my honest opinions, which is something that leads to why I think I have failed to build a development platform for my direct subordinates. Because there's some things about yourself that you do not know is bad, or you don't even are aware that you have that. So it's important that you have a leader that is willing to speak up because they care enough for you to improve on that. Follow-up question. Ms. Kathy Kwan.
Thank you, Chairperson. So is there anything you would like to tell the plenary about yourself that we might not know yet, but you really want to tell us?
Ms. Angie Fong.
Okay, I'm Ms. Angie Fong, Chairperson. So I'm never a person that is good at speaking. I'm never a person that would come out and do public speaking. I'm never a person that will be very honest to everyone. I'm not a person that will open up to this level. But I'm doing this now because I really see how it's important for me to become the next session's LCP. I really want to do it for this LC. I really see how important this is to not only to me but also to the entity. So I really want to tell you, maybe I cannot communicate well about my thoughts, but if you read my plans, if you really understand, then you will see how much I want to change this entity. And if you really have worked with me, you really know. Thank you.
Ms. Irene. Thank you, Chairperson. So the normal perception of people they have on me is that they think I'm someone beaming with confidence, someone who seems to have her life together. But I'll be here today to show a side that I'm most afraid of is how insecure I am. I self-doubt myself a lot, but that's something that I do not tell people. But then why I'm doing this, why I'm being honest about this part about myself, is that I don't think I can be a good leader. I cannot think I can be a good role model if I do not admit some of my deepest fears as a human being. So that's why I would like to be that person that take the first step towards what I think is right to be a good leader in the future, so that other people can take that as something that they can do as well. Okay, so Chairperson would like to draft the question list for the first round of Q&A. So if you still have questions regarding the personal or leadership aspect, please do raise your hand. And when I call upon your name, please put down your hand and we'll go in orders. Yes. First round. Ms. Muskan Gandhi, Mr. Chris Chow, Mr. Adrian Poon, Mr. Camlin Book, Mr. Andrew Raphael James, Mr. Bernard Wall, Ms. Darius Lotto, Ms. Agnes Lowe, Ms. Shirley Wong, Ms. Naomi Wong, and Mr. Gary Christopher, and Ms. Muskan Gandhi. One, please. You can have follow-up question. And we'll start with Mr. Chris Chow.
Please pick a book and to describe your leadership style.
Pick a what? Point of clarification from Ms. Angie.
Pick a book.
Ms. Angie Fong.
Okay, so the book is called Winning. I'm not sure if some of you have read that book, but I'm telling you guys about this book. It's not about what is written in that thick book. It's because the one line on the cover, it says, it's the only management book you need. And it somehow shows my personality. Like, I always want to do things in a fast way. I'm not having that patience to read every single management book in the world. And that's very appealing to me. And I started reading that book. And I still haven't finished. And I'm still reading. But what shows from this book about my leadership style is that I'm someone that really wants to make things fast. I need efficiency. I'm persistent because I'm still reading the book. And yeah, that's all.
Ms. Irene. Thank you, Chairperson. So I think this is a very famous one, Diary of a Wimpy Kid. May I know if there's anyone who doesn't know? Okay. I'm saying that this is a book that I can relate to my leadership philosophy, not because I think I'm the kid inside that book, but I've read it when I'm young, and I really like how, despite the fact that you think you're lame, you do not let that define yourself. And I relate that to my leadership style because I do not care how bad you are. I do not care how much problem you have. As long as you believe that you can make a difference in yourself, then I'm ready to lead someone like that. Yes. Follow-up question. Mr. Chris Chow.
Thank you, Chairperson. So it's a simulation, so please do not feel offended. So I will ask this. Like, you are an unqualified leader. So, like, why can you lead me? Why can you lead us? Please answer that.
Point of clarification from Ms. Angie Fong.
Is it your definition of unqualified or my definition of unqualified?
Our definition of unqualified, like from someone like innocent.
Can you give some example?
Okay. Yes. Okay, so I just raised that you are an unqualified leader, and it's an angle that is just an accused. So it's not my personal judgment, but please respond that way.
Ms. Irene. Thank you, Chairperson. If you were to come to me and say that I'm an unqualified leader, the only thing that I can say is to ask you why. For me, if you think I'm unqualified, but if I'm ready to actually listen to the why you think I'm not qualified, and to show you that I'm ready to make myself an even better leader, then that's my definition of a good leader. Because at the end of the day, a good leader is not just someone who can make huge changes or someone who can do big things, but sometimes it starts with small actions. So that's what I'm going to do. Ms. Angie Fong.
Chairperson. So yeah, same. I need to know why. And why do you think I'm unqualified? And what kind of things do you need as follower? And if I don't think that's a qualified reason, then I was just trying to explain what a leader truly is. And I try to solve every single conflicts in value through communication, because if you have the patience or you're willing to talk and you finally find a way out, you will see how different people are and you really try to understand, and I guess that's the way you also experience.
Okay, since time is not allowed, time is running out, so I will not allow follow-up question, but I can open a follow-up question for you upon request. So please make your only one question precise and concise to conclude everything you want to ask. Is it okay? And if okay, we can proceed to Mr. Adrian Poon.
So compare yourself to the candidate next to you and convince us why you're better.
Times of candidate. Miss Angie Fong.
Thank you, Chairperson. So it's that I only say what I really mean, and I'll do everything I have said. And it's not just do things, I'll finish the thing I said. And I guess that's the point that makes me maybe better than Irene. Yeah.
Miss Irene.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just a heads up, we're two very different people. So, but then one main difference I can say is the fact that I'm ready to put down all my pride and ego to go to to people I'm leading. I'm ready to listen to what they have to say, to what the people I'm leading has to say, and I'm ready to be that person that's going to be made available for people to actually come to, whether it's about work or whether it's about other stuff, about non-work related stuff, and to be that leader that is ready to guide you in all ways. And for me, I guess that's one thing that I believe I can do better than Angie.
Next question goes to Mr. Cameron.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson. So I have a question regarding your leadership and your, occupational roles. So correct me if I'm mistaken, but most of the things an LCP does is more admin work and more of the back office thingy. So what that means is we can't see what you guys are doing, and we probably won't also know what you're doing. So I think a good leader has to lead by example. And seeing that you can't really mingle with the front office, how can you lead by example when you have no example to give? How can you make your presence felt in AIESEC as a whole?
Times of candidate. Miss Angie Fong.
I think it's still again about communication, and it's not just that how I talk to my members. It's also about how I let my EB really fully understand about me, and how my EB really pass on that message to their managers and to their members. And it's not only, it doesn't only stay on the level of word. We communicate by act. How we act, we need to let the members understand, and we need to let them see how's the value and how much we care, and then how and why we really care. So yeah, that's the way.
Miss Irene.
Thank you, Chairperson. For me, it's actually very normal for people to not understand what the LCP is doing. But like I mentioned back in Adrian's question, is I'm the type that's ready to go down into many layers of the organization. And for me, it's not just about
chit-chatting with them and like talking to them and have fun, but it's about how I can be firm with my vision for this entity and how I can deliver that message to each layer. Because for me, it's important for a leader to have a clear direction as to where we're heading to. And it's also important that each of the LCEB is aware of where we're going as a team. Because if I fail to show my EB what I wish to achieve, then the EB will fail to show his or her managers and members as to what we want to achieve. So it's just gonna be another loop of like uncertainty and a loop of like wondering what is actually going on or what to expect next year. And again, it goes back to not just communication, but how willing are you to engage everyone into one single thing? Next question goes to Boston. Did you raise your hand just now? Okay. Next question goes to Mr. Andrew James.
Good evening, person. So, since the term for the next CCP is going to be like 1 year, it's pretty long. I want you to set example for your next EB. How you keep yourself performing while you're, when, for example, something that happens, maybe a personal issues, family issues, or personal struggles. So how can you keep yourself performing so that your next EB can see that, oh, you know, becoming LCVP actually, you can actually manage these things. You know what I mean?
Point of clarification from Ms. Irene. Thank you, Chairperson. Using an actual example that happened, right?
Yeah.
Ms. Irene. Thank you, Chairperson. So as some of you may know, like being on LCVP, I have to stay here during the summer for 3 months. So I actually went back home for about 2 weeks. But to be honest, like, as someone who's really close with her family, that was a huge struggle because I spent the summer here quite alone and I didn't have a roommate that time, so I'm just in the room 3 months alone. But despite the loneliness, I did not stop that from stopping my work, and I do feel that even during summer I did good preparation for my LCVP term, and also I did not stop myself from operating, even though, to be honest, at the end of the summer I became quite depressed because something bad happened at home, but I am unable to be there for my family. But it's that sense of responsibility and sense of like wanting to keep what I want to do of life so that it did not stop me from doing what I do. Ms. Angie Fong.
Thank you, Chairperson. So actually, like around November, I faced a really serious self-doubt and frustration because I really can't meet my standard, and I'm confident to say that I have worked my best already, and I still cannot meet my standard. That's the point when you are losing hope towards what you're doing and your own capability. And I found a way out by talking to people, and I actually see how they recognize me, recognize not just my commitment, but also to my caring towards the entity. And I can tell my EB if they face the same situation that you really need to find someone to talk to really see yourself from another perspective, and that's the way you can survive the whole term.
Next question goes to Ms. Agnes Low.
Thank you, Chairperson. So pipeline is important. So please give me 5 names, or maybe not 5 names, some names that you think that member is eligible to become an EB next year.
Ms. Angie Fong.
I don't know anything, but from what I know, I think all of you sitting in this room are eligible to become a leader of this entity, because at least you care and you're willing to spend your time here to look into the future of this entity. And if you need me to say names, I'll say Muskan Gandhi, Krishal, Kenji, Arenda, Brian, Andrew, Master, Ken, Adrian, Dewi, Bernard, Erica, Natalie, Rainy, Shirley, Mint, Cheryl, Jody. I haven't missed anyone, right? And Kathy, and Francis, and Rhiannon, yeah, like basically
Miss Irene. Standing order is in place. So, okay, Miss Irene.
To be honest, this question comes up every time. And I would say the thing that I decided to say when this question came out is, I will not state names, not because I don't think anyone is qualified, but because I believe that if you require someone else to push you out for a leadership role, then that is not what I call leadership, because everything should come from within. So if you yourself believe that you can make it, then I'm just like awaiting for your application. Thank you.
Next question goes to Ms. Dewi Suloto.
My question is very related to camps. Since you are applying for the role of an LCP, I'm certain you realize that there's going to be limited interactions with the members in the future sessions. And this is because you can't expect to talk to everybody, you know? Like, you can only like touch the hearts of very limited amount of people. So my question is, I'm a firm believer that just by speaking in public in front of everybody, it's not enough to inspire them, unless you're very, very charismatic, like, I don't know, Hitler. So, other than by talking to them, what is your plan to make sure that your committee next year, especially the members, will have the same vision as you and work with you towards making this vision a reality? Thank you.
Ms. Angie Fong.
Thank you, Chairperson. So actually there's a lot of way of doing that besides of speaking, just purely speaking. I think it's more important to let them understand what will happen if AIESEC is not in place, if leadership is not in place. And we can do it by letting them go through some kind of experience, for example, local volunteer, and maybe, for example, something similar to what we are doing, and to let them really to have the first-hand experience of what AIESEC is doing, is how impactful is AIESEC is really doing. And yeah, that's the only way, not the only way, but that's the first way that comes to my mind. But I think it's like, I'm welcome to every suggestion about this point. If you really have any suggestion on how to make the members to understand the vision.
Ms. Irene.
Thank you, Chairperson. So actually, I do connect to the team stance of 1516, which is defined by action. So I'm the type of leader, I'm going to focus on what I can do as an LCP to, like, besides talking, what I can do is really by action. Is how that I am actually ready to go down to people, like different layers, to show what I can do as a support. Whether it's to help them with, like, for instance, example, if there's booth or branding event, that I'm ready to be present to show that this is important for the entity. Because oftentimes, something is deemed as important. Like, if we have event at school and Waco is there, people will think like, oh, this is legit. So it goes to like that kind of same logic, you know? Because if the person with the highest role in the entity is there to make it happen, then people would want to make it happen because they can see how important it is for the entity and for everyone to make it happen. Thank you.
Next question goes to Mr. Bernard Wu.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Okay, from a regular member's point of vantage, I feel that departments are very isolated from each other. And the only points of sharing, to my knowledge, is mass meeting. And maybe VPs talking to each other. And other than that, I don't think there's any. So this makes it very difficult for members to see the bigger picture. And most of the time they feel like they're lost. So my question to you is, are there any plans on a better integrated local committee? How will it be different under your leadership? Or will it be the same as this term? Thank you.
Ms. Irene. Thank you, Chairperson. So the first point is about how you integrate different departments, right? So of course mass meeting is not enough because mass meeting is once a month, but operations is an ongoing thing for like a year. And usually what happens is you do not know which is the line between like which part should be done by back office, which part should be done by OGV, OGT. There's a lot of like confusion as to what's what. So that's why in my manifesto I talked about being data driven. So it's about how we use data to pinpoint the biggest problem of the LC so that we know which department should be tackling what problem. So that's about synergy. But you mentioned about how to see the bigger picture. To be honest, just being in LC is not enough to see the bigger picture. That's why it's important that next year we build a culture where it's important to grab chances outside of the LC, such as going for OC, such as going for international conferences.
Ms. Angie Fong. Thank you, Chairperson. So actually, I think an integrated LC is not gonna be made by a frequent type of meetings. Like, you won't get more connected with someone if you continuously meet them, but you can't really understand each other. So, I think it's more important to let them have connected minds, have the shared values. They doesn't need to meet frequently. As long as we have given space for them to share about their thoughts in maybe once in a while meeting, and when they hear someone says something in their mind, they'll feel the echo. And I think this is the better way to form bondings between people. It's about the depth, not about the... Yeah.
Next question. Irene, you answered the question. Okay. Next question goes to Ms. Shirley Wong.
Thank you, Chairperson. And my question is, do you think you're ready for the position of SCP for the next session? And what kinds of leadership style or what kind of leadership you want to see and want to develop within your future members?
Ms. Irene. Thank you, Chairperson. So, to be completely honest, there's bound to be stuff that you're not ready for. But if you were to ask me now, I do feel like I'm ready for the post. Not because I think that I'm the best, but because I'm already ready to embrace every part of me for this role. Whether it's the worst part of myself, whether it's my weaknesses, I'm ready to face them heads on to be a better leader for the entity. And it takes some courage to take up the challenge. And for me, that's the kind of spirit I want to see for next year. I want people who's here in AIESEC to tell themselves that it's okay to not be okay, and that the only time it's going to be a problem is when you know there's something wrong, but you're not doing anything about it. And that's something that I do not want to see in the entity next year. So, yeah, that's it. Ms. Angie Fong.
Thank you, Chairperson. So, you ask me if I'm ready or not, in my standard, I will say yes. I will say yes, because I believe if I really work hard and I really I mean really work hard, and there's nothing is impossible. And I'm ready to give that commitment and that hard work for the next session. So I will say I'm ready. And what I want to see in the future members is actually the spirit of striving for excellence. It's the way that you really achieve the things with everyone. And by saying striving for excellence, it doesn't mean that you say you achieve the excellence defined by others, but defined by yourself. It's like a constant effort on evaluating and also to figure out new ways of doing things. So it may be difficult, but that's a thing that I want to see in the future members.
Next question goes to Ms. Naomi Wong.
Thank you, Chairperson. If there's one thing from your personality that would completely ruin the entity, what would it be?
Time's up, candidate. Time's up. Ms. Angie Fong.
So, thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. So, it's actually very difficult to ruin the entity by myself. But if it's the case, then I think it will be because of people. Like, I cannot really lower my standard to a level that people can accept. And also, if that breaks the relationship and people quit. But I can tell you it's not likely to happen. But if you really want me to imagine that, that's the way that I imagine how my personality would ruin the entity.
Ms. Irene.
Thank you, Chairperson. For most people who know me would know that the typical statement people say about me is, I'm too chill in life. But for me, it's not about being chill, but it's that I'm the type that's ready to put trust in people. And how that's going to ruin the entity is basically the fact that some trusts are meant to be broken. And the fact that I'm ready to put trust in people, but if the fact is that person is unable to fulfill the trust I have placed in him or her, then affecting the LC, whether it's operation-wise or other parts of like the LC, then that is how I see my personality can put actual damage to the LC.
Next question goes to Mr. Gary Christopher.
Thank you, Chairperson. If you have a gun and you have to shoot someone in this room, who would it be? You can't say yourself or no one. It has to be someone.
Point of clarification from Ms. Irene.
I should explain why, right?
Yes.
Ms. Irene.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think when you ask this question, you should know that I would say I will shoot you, but not for weird reasons, okay? But because I believe that in this room, I'm closest to Gary, which means that usually, if you guys don't know, I'm completely honest with this person. I can be the most arrogant person in front of him. Like, he should know that in front of him, I can just make myself sound as if I'm some god or something because I'm just comfortable. But then sometimes it could lead to like, what do you call that? Reinforcing the ego inside. So I would shoot you so that I won't have a person where I can be egoistic to, so that I can actually put myself in a place where I can learn from my own mistakes, and to be in a place where I can see where my weakness lies on, where my flaws are, so that I can be a better person, so that I won't be delusioned that I'm already good enough.
Ms. Angie Fong. Ms. Angie Fong.
Thank you, Chairperson. So, I'll shoot you too. Firstly, because I think you are the only one who is ready to be shaped because you asked this question. And it's a silly reason, but yeah, that's the first reason. And second reason is that yeah, that's the criteria. Thank you.
Okay, next. Last question goes to Ms. Muskan Gandhi.
Thank you, Chairperson. Can I request a follow-up question too?
Chairperson allows.
Who do you think is more important, the President or the Prime Minister of the country? And explain why.
Ms. Angie Fong.
I think it really depends on which stage the entity is going through, and if the context is AIESEC and CityU, then I think a prime minister is much more suitable, because like a president is usually someone who represents the country, someone who is trying to communicate what the country represents to everyone inside the country and outside of the country. But for a prime minister, he or she is the one who is really gonna execute and really gonna bring what the country as a whole envisions to reality. And for AIESEC and CityU, I really think that we are at a bottleneck of building a basis and really to step one step forward from what we are currently standing, because from the figures you can tell we are some kind of stuck. So I think we need someone to really execute the things.
Ms. Irene.
Thank you, Chairperson. So I'll put it in another perspective, on a country perspective. Of course, the Prime Minister is the one that makes things happen, but the brand or the kind of like the representative of the country at the end of the day is the President. And at the end of the day, as a country or as an organization, it's important to protect your brand. And that's why for me, President is more important, not just because he or she is the one that is showcasing what the country is holding a stance for, but more than that is if the President is able to be the role model as to what the country is having a stance on, or what the organization wish to achieve in the future, then the president role is more important than the PM, who is focusing on the more operational side.
Follow-up question, Ms. Muskan Gandhi.
Thank you, Chairperson. Can you identify which one are you? Are you the Prime Minister or the President? Thank you.
Ms. Irene.
Thank you, Chairperson. For me, like, I actually thought of this question previously already, and my answer is, I feel like I'm more of the President than the Prime Minister, mainly because I'm the type that is willing to be on the spotlight, to be the one to show people what kind of leader I am, and to be that person that's ready to show people that it's okay to make mistakes. So it's the kind of like the role of being a role model that makes me believe that I'm more of a presidential role than a prime minister role. And moreover is the fact that the president is, at the end of the day, they're the ones that show the responsibilities. Like whatever happens in the country or whatever happens in the government, they're the person that people would go to and say like, okay, you have to fix this. And I'm the type that's ready to bear responsibilities as big as that as the president.
Ms. Angie Fong.
Thank you, Chairperson. So, yeah, obviously I'm more like the Prime Minister than the President. I'm not a person that is good at representing the entity, but what I want to say is, actually from both of our plans, you can see that the points are actually very similar. And if you read previous LCP's manifesto, it's really not much difference. But why is it the entity is not really moving forward? It's 80% because of the execution. And if you really want the entity to move forward, I really think the Prime Minister is more important.
Okay, so this will mark the end of the first round Q&A. At time 1:12, Chairperson receives procedural motion number 8, which reads that the first round question and answer session of Local Committee President's Candidate Session 2018-19 to be concluded. May I have the proposer from the floor? Mr. Adrian Poon, seconder. Ms. Naomi Wong, proposer speak for the motion. Proposer.
I just want to do something that I've missed. I'd like to acknowledge the chairperson. So thank you, chairperson.
Seconder. Waived. Any general comment? If not, motion put to vote. Any abstain against? If not, chairperson assumes that motion passed unanimously. And at time 1:13, chairperson receives procedural motion number 9, which reads that the first election general meeting to be temporarily suspended. Can I have the proposal from the floor? Ms. Kathy Kwan, seconder. Ms. Naomi Wong will propose speak for motion. Waive, seconder. Waive. Any general comment? If no, motion put to vote. Any abstain against? If no, chairperson assumes that motion passed unanimously. Okay, so now we're going to have a lunch break because we delayed the original agenda. So I just want to do a sensing of the quorum, whether you guys want 45 minutes lunch or 35 minutes lunch. So 35 minutes lunch, raise your hand. Raise higher. Yes. 45 minutes.
The rest.
The rest is.
Don't need.
Okay, then I'll go for 40 minutes lunch lah. Yes, and please be reminded to come back to this room at 1:50. 1:50 sharp. Please feel free to buy takeaway.